Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming to our presentation. My name is Shanshan He, a third-year PhD student in Applied Linguistics at Western University, and my co-presenter, Chuan Liu, he is a third-year PhD candidate in Curriculum Studies at Western University. So today we will present a collaborative reflection on implementing digital identity tags in language teacher education program, a narrative inquiry. So in this presentation, we will follow a traditional structure to present our study. For some background information, as we all know, Ontario schools have some of the most multilingual student populations, and the first language of 28% of students in Ontario schools is a language other than English. Many English language learners were born in Canada and have been raised in family and communities, excuse me, in which languages other than English or varieties of English that differ from language used in classroom. In addition, students in Ontario schools speak more than 100 different languages, and English language learners arrive in Ontario as newcomers from other countries. They may have experience of highly sophisticated language educational systems, or they may have come from regions where access to formal schooling was limited. So when they start school in Ontario, many of the students are entering a new linguistic and cultural environment. So based on these facts, the Ontario curriculum policy expects all teachers to function as language educators, regardless of their teachable in ever increasingly diverse Canadian classrooms. However, traditional monolingual teacher programs often fail to provide comprehensive education on diversity in languages, literacy, and identities. So for this study, we aim to challenge the monolingual policy and text-based literacy in language teacher education through the incorporation of digital identity text.
Okay, here I will talk a little bit about identity tags. So it is basically a means of pedagogical empowerment of learners marginalized due to socioeconomic background, racialized status, linguistic, cultural, or religious differences. So this idea is coined with Cummings and Perlis, has become ubiquitous pedagogical tool among teachers as a means of valorizing by multilingual students' identities, offering meaning-making options, and building empowering relationships through creating a multilingual multi-model project. So identity tags basically offer an access point for affirming learners' identity through inclusive and diverse modes of communication, which may disrupt traditional power dynamics and facilitate collaborative classroom dynamics. Incorporating identity tags in teacher education brings numerous benefits, such as supporting teachers' design of anti-oppressive pedagogies and fostering identity investment. However, less is known about digital identity tags development among teacher candidates.
So now move on to the methodology that we used to conduct this study. We applied a narrative inquiry. Narrative inquiry is the practice of eliciting and documenting narratives as a form of research. The nature of narrative inquiry is a story or a collection of stories. However, narrative inquiry also goes beyond the storytellings and analytically examine the underlying insights and assumptions that the stories illustrates. So in this study, the researchers are two teacher educators and PhD students in education. We both have many years of teaching experience in teaching English and Mandarin Chinese. In the data are two teacher educators' understanding and reflection on the process of implementing digital identity tags and its impacts. And we use inductive coding to analyze the data.
All right, so next I will share the first half of our stories and leave the second half to Shanshan. So firstly, I'd like to walk you through the process of implementing digital identity tags. So Initially, my co-presenter, Shanshan, who was teaching a course for language learners, invited me as a guest speaker for a session. We collaborated closely on developing this session. Given the course goal is to embrace learners' diversity and adopt an asset-based perspective towards multilingual learners, I introduced the concept of identity text. I first encountered identity text in another course and developed my own teacher identity text. As a language teacher, I found the creation of identity text is very transformative. It helped me reflect deeply on my teaching beliefs and reaffirmed my commitment to embracing diversity and social justice. Engaging in discussions with colleagues further promoted inclusiveness and enhanced our collective understanding of diversity. With this in mind, we decided to use identity text as a form of assessment. Firstly, as an assessment for learning, we aim for teachers to gain insights into diversity through reflection and peer exchanges. Secondly, as an assessment as learning, we encourage teachers to use multilingual, multimodal, and media resources to celebrate diverse ways of meaning making. We also encourage the teacher candidates to be both creative and critical in the creation of their identity texts. After developing this activity, I presented the identity text project during the session on culturally relevant pedagogy. I began by introducing the theory behind identity text and then shared my own example, demonstrating how I integrated digital technologies, languages, and literacies. Following a class discussion on the theory and identity text, the students began to develop their own digital identity texts.
After the class presentation, students had 2 weeks to create their own digital identity text, and they were informed that they need to present their identity text in the last class of this course. After first week, students need to submit their proposal for the identity text. In specific, they need to explain the content and format of their identity text. So in the second week, students had opportunities to ask questions and express their concerns about this assessment, and we both were there to help them finish this assessment. In the last week of this course, I invite students to participate in a mini conference where students presented their identity text in small groups. I think this is a valuable opportunity for our teacher candidates to showcase their cultural and identities and learn from others. Many groups of my students had very in-depth reflection and discussion on using digital identity text as a tool to create an inclusive and culturally responsive learning environment for their future students. Now we would like to discuss some emerging themes in our work. First, we realized the ongoing negotiation process to address the gap between how we plan this assessment and how students react to it. As we all know that not all of our teacher candidates knew identity texts, and some of them were not used to use multimodal format to complete assessment. There raised lots of questions and concerns, such as what topic should I choose? Can I still use the traditional way, the writing for this assessment? And what if I was not creative enough? And can I use my first language? Can I incorporate identity texts into my teaching subjects? So this assessment simulated many good questions and discussions, even collaborations among teacher candidates.
Another prominent theme was the expansion of meaning making in assignments and assessments. Many courses at teacher colleges rely heavily on English dominant text-based assessments. We aim to challenge the traditional approach to literacy by embracing new literacies, including multimodal and multilingual forms of expression. In our project, most teacher candidates used more than one mode to create their identity text. Some incorporated their own home languages, while French teachers integrated French. Others were creative with their presentations, connecting them to their teaching subjects and using video, audio, and other media to enhance their identity text. However, we observed that text remained the prominent, or written form remained the prominent mode of expression. This raises important questions. If teachers are not comfortable using multiple modes of meaning making, how can they empower their students to leverage their home languages and preferred modes in learning? If students are only assessed using traditional methods, how can they connect with their real life environments, which are rich in multilingual and multimodal experiences? If schools fail to create a third space that bridges these worlds, how can we truly celebrate diversity and foster inclusive classrooms? And if literacy remains narrowly defined, excluding non-white, non-English speaking, non-cisgender, and non-male identities, how can we achieve justice in education?
The last theme is teacher candidates' anxiety and uncertainty of the consequences of this assignment. Since we use a very creative way to assess our teacher candidates, they were worried that they may fail in this assessment because they were not creative enough. So to resolve their concern, I encourage them to focus more on the content, that is the exploration of their identity and culture, and think this digital media as the tools to make their identity texts more accessible and interactive.
Finally, let's discuss the implications of our study. First, we urge policymakers to support teacher candidates in embracing multilingual and multimodal meaning making. This involves encouraging faculty to integrate diverse languages and modes of expression into both assessment and learning. By doing so, we can help dismantle the dominance of text-based literacy and move toward greater education justice. Second, we encourage professors to recognize and incorporate the founts of identity that students bring to their courses. This would enable the representation of diverse identities and promote creative forms of alternative assessment. Additionally, we advocate for the broader adoption of a pass-fail system within the faculties. Such a system would shift the focus away from simply passing the course, allowing teacher candidates to concentrate more on creativity, critical thinking, and meaningful connections between theory and practice. This approach would also help reduce the anxiety associated with alternative assessments, making it easier for future teachers to apply these methods in their own classrooms. Ultimately, this shift can foster a more inclusive, innovative, and reflective teaching practice.
So for future direction, we hope to conduct a longitudinal study to explore students' developmental understanding of their identity across multiple tasks, which can also deepen our understanding of the use of digital identity text to support diversity and inclusion in Canadian schools. So this concludes our presentation. We open to any questions, comments.